Hi everyone. Welcome to today's Code Jam section, and hello Melody.
Hi Kelechi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just it's just another Saturday, and that time where you get to have some time for yourself, chill and do something awesome. So today we'll be talking about something very exciting. We'll be building solid apps with Solidjs. The name actually, just gives it this vibe. You're building solid apps. So I'm excited to be talking about it and also looking at the code with you. Yep. So what are you? How's the day going for you?
I had a rough weekend, Kelechi, and it was very rough because I had to fix a lot of bugs and production
Yeah.
bugs and builds and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
today's the only time I just I had time for myself, and I'm going to make use of the weekend for myself and my kids.
Cool. So let's get right in. So usually when we do jams, like the first thing we do is we take our markers. Markers are like things, new things you just learned in the through the week. We just discuss them and then we move into the session. So Melody, I'll start from you. What's your marker for this week?
Funny enough, my marker is on the topic we are discussing, Solidjs. So I've been very intrigued about the build and the pragmatic build around Solidjs. And this is because personally, I love reactive programming. You know how uh, you have these reactive components and things have you know react to behaviors and patterns or things in your code. So I've been very very intrigued about it, and my marker is around the Solidjs and how it does its rendering and everything and how it does its complete updating. And it's very, very
Oh,
awesome. So I guess we'll get more about it when we talk about Solidjs.
okay. So what about Solidjs are you picking as a marker? Because Solidjs a bit just Solidjs a bit vague. So is there something you found so interesting about Solidjs? You're already giving us like an intro into what Solidjs is all about.
Yeah. So it's not it's gonna be more generic in the end. I'm in this end. I mean, I I'm looking at the reactivity of SolidJS. You know how SolidJS is very reactive, and that's what intrigues me most. And I guess that's what attracts every other person. In as much SolidJS is very lightweight, but
Yeah,
personally, I don't really care much about lightweightness. I care about how optimized I can make my code run, or
yeah.
how fast I can make my code become, and the speed. It's something else, and I really love the speed it gives.
Oh, cool. Okay. So I guess now I'll have to give my marker, right?
Yep.
Okay. So for me, it's about like have you heard of server components? So React 18, I think the recent React introduced a new thirst version, beta version for server components. So this time you get to like build pages from the server and then return it. So if you remember the way we are doing then back then when we were working with Express and EJS templates, handlebars for templating, where we get to compile pages with handlebars and add the dynamic data to it and push it to the client. Right. So they're kind of trying to provide that feature this time with not with using templates, but rather using React. So that's where they introduced this thing called server components, right? And also Nest.js, which is also a very cool framework for building full stack applications, also started working. I think they already have Nest.js is already written on the server side, and they have this static page regeneration and so many cool stuff. So I think for me that my marker is about like I have not for a while now. I've just been building a React. I've not had time to look into the documentation to see what new updates are done. But getting to hear of server components is cool, and it's funny that we're all moving to back to where we came from. The fact that we get to return HTML back, but this time they are trying to make it more performant and all that. So me actually, I actually don't like seeing HTML on the server, but if you look at things like SEO, if you look at things like first time of load, because with front client side applications making use of client side, where the HTML is on the client, the challenge there is because the initial time you come on the app, it takes time to load because you're trying to pass that large bundle, which includes all the HTML for the website. So that takes a lot of time. So with server components, you can, build the components from the server side and then return it to the front side of things. So this was what was being done with the likes of edges and handlebars back, but they weren't as performant as the client's React is. But recently, as they are introducing server components, I think maybe things will go better.
That's very cool. Actually, I got the opportunity to look at the server components of React, and it's very cool. Like it gives you this next level thingy, and it's not just it's server side rendering, right? It has this
Yeah.
extra capacity to server side rendering, which you
Okay.
could all go and see in the documentation. I have not really
Okay.
had time to build, should I say, an enterprise ready software with it. However, I did a simple demo, and it was very cool. So yeah,
Cool. So we've already exhausted the 5 minutes for Amaka. Let's just jump right in and talk about Solidjs. So
so
actually my screen is here. So and I'm presenting here. So if I look here, it means I'm trying to look at you. And if I look here, then I'm trying to look at what I'm presenting. So all right, so let's jump right in. And today we'll be building with Solidjs. And yep. So first of all, before we discuss Solidjs, we need to talk about something, reactivity, right? Reactivity, it's a very important concept when it comes to building front-end apps. Right? Reactivity in single-page applications refers to the ability of the user's interface to update dynamically in response to change in application data. So reactivity happens as you load the page. Maybe users are trying to log in, they're trying to act on something, or some data is being pulled, right? That's reactivity. And the way your apps or your front-end app responds to that is what decides if your app is responsive, if your app is efficient, right? So so with reactivity or with good reactivity, it enables a more interactive user's experience by updating the UI dynamically without requiring full page reload. This is the major benefit of building client-side applications because what you're getting from the server is not HTML, so you don't need to request individual pages. What you're getting from the server is data in form of maybe JSON or JSON as GraphQL, right? So that's what makes front end app fast and their users experience wonderful, right? So now, having said that, we've discussed reactivity. Let's look at what Solid.js is all about, right? So Solid.js is an open source project. We love open source projects. I love open source projects. In fact, I'm a beneficiary of most of the tools I work with are open source. Once I hear open source, I feel more happy to work with it because I know that the communities are contributing to it. So Solid.js is an open source project with MIT license, and the creator of Solid.js is Ryan Canieto. Right, so that's the guy that thought of, okay, I think we have some problems with the existing front end application. We can make it better. In software engineering, we can always make things better, right? Because we see a problem and we want to find better solutions to solve the problem. That's the reason why most of these new frameworks, most of these new ways of doing things are getting produced. They are getting built, right? So Solidjs, you can find Solidjs at http www.solidjs.com. That's their website. They've got a lot of information about how to start using Solidjs and how to start your first Solidjs application, and also what is the support, right? So as a summary, Solidjs is a minimalistic yet powerful UI library with reactivity at the core. That's the major reason why I get to explain reactivity. I get to give you a very bare minimum of what reactivity is about before entering into discussing Solidjs, because most of what we'll be talking about today relies on the fact that on the way Solidjs handles reactivity, right? So let's continue. So is Solidj just another open source project? Now, some engineers most times when they hear about new projects, their first thought is, "Oh, I'll just have to start learning something new," and they are faced with that fear of a new thing to learn, and that's going through that steep or maybe depending on your current level, steep learning curve. But now they ask, is it just a new or another project? We're already using something like React or Vue and Angular. Why do I need to use Solidjs? Well, that's the question you all have in mind, and that's what we're going to look into. Let's open Solidjs and see what it has to offer. So, Solidjs, first of all, Solidjs, if you ask yourself before you use a tool, there are certain things you consider. Number one, for me as a person or as someone building for a user, having user in mind, the number one thing I consider is performance. And if you look at the chart here, this is coming from Solidjs website. You notice that Solidjs is as fast as vanilla JavaScript, right? You can see that it's close to vanilla JavaScript, and you can see React all the way to the bottom. So, though I'm a React developer, I love React. React made my work a lot more easier with the components, atomic design principles, and all that. But seeing that Solid is all the way here, I'm wondering why. What is Solid doing differently that React is not doing? Well, let's dive in deeper. And also, another thing to consider after considering performance, knowing that okay, if our app is more performance, then users are able to use it fluently. They're not complaining that the app is slowing down or is freezing. The next thing I tend to consider is the development process, right? Do I have to configure very complex build pipelines? Do I need to start learning something very steep? Maybe this time they introduce a new bundler or something like that. But coming to Solidjs, you notice that it's almost like, in fact, while writing Solidjs, I felt like I was writing React. I felt like, is this not React? Right? Because the whole ecosystem, the use of the bundlers they use Vite, yeah, Vite, and the whole thing, the transpilers, everything is still the same thing with React. So that means if you're comfortable with writing React, you can also with building with React, you can also build with Solidjs. Right, so that's why they wrote here it's familiar and modern. The tools they use ES6, which brings a lot of new features of JavaScript inside it. They use component-driven architecture. They make use of several other things, right? Their development environment is just one install, npm, and you're ready to go, right? And then at the core of it, what makes Solidjs different from React is this fine-grained reactivity. That is the amazing thing with Solidjs. In fact, that's the major reason why, okay, if I want to build an app that where I need some level of performance, I would go for Solidjs compared to React. Depending on the use case, you might go with React. React is awesome, they're super good, depending on the use case and you as a person, what you choose to do. Right. So let's go into Solid. Let's open up what Solid is. Let's go deeper and look at what reactivity is all about in this case. Now, Solid is a declarative JavaScript library for building users interface, and its reactivity system is designed to efficiently update the user's interface based on change to the underlying data. One of the major performance issues with application built with modern front-end libraries is managing states. You can build an app and somebody else builds that same app and you see that one is faster than the other. The only thing there, the only major change there is not from the library itself, but also from the way states is being managed. What happens when a user do you overload data? Do components will render a lot, right? So how does Solid do this? Solid achieves reactivity through a concept called reactive primitives. Now, you know, in JavaScript, we have something called primitives, right? We have 6 types of primitives. We have the strings, we have the numbers, we have the booleans, we have the nulls, we have undefined, and we have symbols, right? One unique thing about primitive is that at if you're doing a comparison for a primitive, you do it by value. But with the other thing, which are non-primitive like objects, you do a comparison by reference. So that's why when you're writing React app, that's why sometimes you have to use reuse memo and things like that because you're trying to prevent the component from re-rendering when maybe an object reference changes. So, but when it comes to Solid, they make use of these reactive primitives, right? So I'm thinking, okay, is it that they're not really trying to decide on state change based on reference, but rather value? Well, let's see. So, called reactive primitive and a mechanism called fine-grained reactivity tracking. Reactive primitives are functions or objects that are used to represent data dependencies. When a component uses a reactive primitive, Solid automatically tracks any changes to that primitives and updates the component accordingly. Right. So, also, how do they achieve these reactive primitives? Achieving these reactive primitives is done by ES6 proxy. And to be honest, while researching this, that's where I got to notice that there is something called ES6 proxy. And that's a way to tie in modification of an object, intercept modification of an object in JavaScript and call a function. So you can see here on the right here, I have a sample code where we're having an object target and we're having a handler, and that handler has is attacked via proxy, right? So whenever you modify a property of that object, you see that that function, the get function is getting called. So whenever you access a property of that object, so this handler can also take other things like the set that gets called whenever you try to set a property on that object. So it is this idea, it is this feature of JavaScript that uses to make decision on what components to update, because it holds an object of the component and knows what value to update it with, right? Using ES6 proxy. So it's something, well, as us users of the library or framework, we wouldn't really dive in deeper into the solid code to try to see how they achieve this. But knowing that, okay, this is what they are doing behind the scene, it's good. So while doing this, I compared React and Solid. I decided to do something interesting. I added a console log to my Solid project, and then added the same console log to a function in my Solid project. While running, both of the components kept, because I made a state change, the console log kept running over and over and over and over again. But the one with Solid kept just console logged once, meaning those components are getting called, the functional components are getting called once, right? So there is a lot to this, right? And this dynamic tracking and reactivity system in Solid eliminates the need for virtual DOM, right? React makes use of the virtual DOM, where for them to compute a node change, they they use a different algorithm. So they have the virtual DOM and the real DOM. So they compute they use the virtual DOM to compute what area of the node changes and replaces that with the real DOM, right? So now with Solid, they don't use the virtual DOM, right? Solid makes use of these reactive primitives, right? So they kind of hold metadata of what part of the component changes and changes that accordingly, right? And with something like this, it's faster. So that's why most persons was building in React or had been building in React, was because the major challenge of interactivity has to do with re-rendering. And re-rendering causes, with vanilla JavaScript, causes the entire DOM node to remount, like to re-render. Like with normal vanilla JavaScript, if you change a button or the value of a button changes, the entire DOM node re-renders, right? The entire DOM tree, right, re-renders. But with React, using the definite algorithm, they're able to use the real DOM and the virtual DOM and compute just a particular portion, just that area, making the UI faster. But with Solid, this case, we're using ES6 proxy and the reactive primitives to compute what part of the UI changes. I think this is the major reason why um, Solid will be faster than React, right? Because out of the box, Solid is already solving the problem. It's already going ahead to it's already providing a better solution to computing what area of the DOM needs to change, and then modifying that area accordingly using ES6 proxies as it's written here. All right. So after knowing how Solid achieves this, how what makes Solid fast, or what's the good thing about Solid compared to React, we already used to React, which is what I said before in the previous slide. It's fine-grained reactivity. Then let's look at how Solid, working with Solid, the common thing you might get to notice, the common thing you might get to use to achieve this fine-grained reactivity we mentioned in the previous slide. So the first thing we hear, like when it comes to state management in Solid, is signals. Right, signals are like use effects in React. The only difference with signals in React as opposed to Solid is that with Solid, signals returns a getter and a setter, right? While we React, use state returns the value, right? as well as a setter, right? And next, we have memos. Memos are for memorizing expensive functions. Let's say you have a computation in a component that maybe does some heavy workload, fetches data from maybe some source, or does some complex computation that takes up memory. You can memorize that, and whenever that function gets called again, a memorized response or result is getting returned, right? That's the same thing you achieve with use memo and React when you're trying to memorize the data returned by a function, and use callback when you're actually trying to memorize the function call itself. Okay, so we have memos, and the next thing we have is effects. In every Most times when you're building front end apps, you have cases where you have effects. Maybe you're making an API call, and all that. You have side effects like that. So Solid has the same concept too. It has something called effects, where you create sides based on create side effects based on some dependencies, right? So maybe if somebody logs in, you're checking the input fields to check if a login button is clicked, and you're making an API call, or you're doing something like that. So that's what you can do with effects. So with signals, with memos, with effects, you will see that you'll be able to build a more efficient and solid front end application. So there are other things Solid has, like the flows, like the force and all that. So what's the ecosystem for Solid? Solid has a wide range of tools and libraries needed to develop Solid applications. So with these tools and libraries, you can develop applications faster, right? You can, like they have different tools for different things. Maybe you need a playground, a REPL, you need different things, transition groups, you need icons. So Solid has all that for you. So for your team, if you're working in a team, you want to just get up and running, Solid has a bunch of those stuffs for you. Okay. So yeah. So next, how do you get started with Solid? Right? What are the steps? It's fairly easy. Just like React, you just do npm create React app, and you put the name of the app you want, and you're in, right? You're in. That's the same thing with Solid. You just do npx digest and the app name of the app, and you see that a new Solid project will be created for you. You go in. I think it's most likely it feels like React. Like Solid feels like React to me. It's just starting cases where there are some differences depending on how you're using the effects, and you're using the signals, and you're using the memos, right? So yeah, so my previous slide went off. Okay, so I wasn't supposed to say thank you yet, because Melody has to build something.
Yeah.
So we don't want to just see slides. Well, they just explain the theoretical concept. We want to actually see code. We want to see you write code. So Melody, I think the stage is yours.
All right, guys. That was a very beautiful presentation from Kelechi, and I think generally almost everything Solid covers, right? Uh, so if you head over to the Solid documentation, you would see that there's a get started, and if you click there, you definitely see what Kelechi has uh, shown you. So I'm going to expand this a bit so we have a lot of room. I'm going to be using the state manager, so I'll be it's a switching between the VS Code and the browser. So bear with me with that.
Cool.
Is the screen bold enough? Is this view bold enough, or should I zoom in a
Yeah, I
bit?
think it's bold enough. Yeah, it's cool.
All right. So if you use a NPS Digest solid templates, you could spin up a solid app. So you could do that with the regular JavaScript, or you do that with the TypeScript. I have done that already, and we have that in a repository. So you could go ahead and pull from there or clone from there. So if you go to github.com, okay, I don't always remember this.
Can you zoom in your window a bit, your Chrome window?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Is there a way to zoom in here? I don't
Yeah,
think so.
Command plus.
No.
Command plus.
I mean like the search bar.
I think
I don't think so.
if you zoom in the window, the entire window, it will zoom into the search or something.
It's not working for
Oh,
me.
can you zoom in a bit? You're zooming out.
Yeah, it's not working for me. The zooming
Oh,
in,
it's not
it's
working.
not
All right,
zooming here.
just
So
go to the link. Then you just paste it. We'll paste it on the chat.
all right. So if you go to Melody Leonard and go to uh, I think let me remember what I named the app. So we have the shopping carts.
Okay.
If I'm not wrong. This is funny. Uh,
Okay, have you found it?
I am navigating to that place. Oh, I have not logged into GitHub on here. So if you go to github.com /slash shopping carts, you would find the projects and you could clone from there. I already have it here, and I went ahead to do this, beforehand, so I don't have to rewrite a lot of CSS and all those boiler code.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
I would run through these parts just a little bit, so we have it on inside of what we have here. This is your
Okay.
regular
Can you send the link?
yeah, this. So I'm going to send a link here.
Like just put it in the chat. So I'll put it on YouTube.
Okay, do a quick verification for me that this link is valid. I've
Okay.
sent it. All right. So here is our regular gate ignore. We want to ignore the node modules and want to ignore the this folder that will be created because this is a TypeScript file. So when you compile it, it's going to compile into JavaScript. In the end, all your TypeScript files get compiled to JavaScript, right? And this is your index.html. This is very familiar. This is very this very much resembles React, where you have a regular HTML. So in the end, everything is forced into this HTML, right? You have this regular HTML and you have these scripts. You have
Yeah.
this div, right?
Sorry,
And in this
Melody.
div, yeah.
Yeah, excuse. Can you check on the link? Because I'm trying to access the link. It's not going. So just
Oh, I think
copy it.
I spelled shopping wrong. Can you call? I think this is the right shopping. Oh, okay.
Okay, got it. Got it.
All right.
Yeah.
So what we have here is a div, and we'll have an ID of roots, and every other thing you're going to be writing in your Solid.js will be put inside of this div. And how do we do it, right? In here, you can see that if you come to our index.js, index.ts, which is here, or index.tss, we have this thing called document.get element by ID, and we're getting that root. So we are assigning it to a constant variable called roots. And generally, what we're doing is doing a check here, you know, doing a check and showing some error message if that's not valid. And we are going ahead to compose from that root here. So we are composing a renderer from that root, and if you navigate under the hood, what Solid does, it's similar to React, right? So Solid is going ahead to compose your entire JSS, right, into this root. So everything you're going to be writing, which is your JavaScript, is going to be compiled or forced into this root, which is basically just a div, and that div lives in your index.html here. So you have the package log JSON that helps you track your your log files. We have the package.json which helps you track your packages. So here we have a few packages that come with Solid.js. I installed Tailwind, so this will not come by default for you. But if you install Tailwind, you should have this. I think post CSS as well. When you install Tailwind, following the Solid approach, you should have this post CSS installed as well, and this helps you to compile your post CSS, like CSS that are this really, should I say, this next level CSS, you know. So here we have for CSS configuration, we have the README, which is basically this comes with Solid.js. We have the tailwind configuration. Here I'm not doing any fancy thing. I'm just adding a primary color, and this color is this one here. which is the code jam color. And
Okay, cool.
here we have your TS config, and we have your vits config, the TS, which is just setting this to a port of 3000 and using ES nests, so you can have all the necessary, like this compiles, your build is in your ES nest. A lot of enough about the pre-configured values or pre-configured files. Let's look at the actual code. The actual code comes with generally the basics, right? I've modified this a bit. I've deleted the app module.css because that's not needed, right? But what you basically have is generally an index of CSS where you have your basic styles for your root software or root application, and you have this index.ts that generally have this renders this app. I've gone ahead to import router because I'll be using router, and I'm wrapping the entire app in this router here. So if you're pulling from the source file we have on GitHub, you should have this as well. And just a few logo, we have this
Suppose you zoom
logo.png.
in a bit. You zoom in more.
Okay, we have this
Just
logo.png, which is a CodeJam logo, and yeah. So generally, you could go ahead and look at all these things here. There's this utils, which is I have a format currency code, just a quick one where we have currency formatter because we will be building a shopping cart, right? And I have these type definitions, which is this may not be the best structured code, right? But I just wanted to as bit as possible modularize things so we could have this separation of concern. So this is like your items type definitions, and I'm exporting it so I can have it in every other place. Here we have pages, we have the carts.ts page, and these are just like empty functions. So in your cart, you want to have an increase count. So when you have a list of carts items, you want to be able to increase the count. You want to be able to decrease the count, delete item. You want to get the total of the items somewhere. You want to get the total of the uh, amounts selected so far somewhere. And I've gone ahead to add some basic CSS with Tailwind. We have the item list because I am not very fancy with coming up with good names. So we have the item list, which is going to be your home page. And here we have a basic card that we iterate through the data we have. And this data is just a dummy data. So this data is just the dummy data here. And we are tracing through that, and we are passing each into this card here. Now, if you look at this, there's something very fancy here, this for tag here. So Solidjs gives you this JSS for tag that allows you to do iterations, right? In React, you have to do this with map. You could still do with map in Solid, but you have this. Just know you have the option of the for tag, and
yeah.
when you
The
pass
problem
that,
with
yep,
Yeah, sorry. The problem with doing with map with Solidjs is you lose that reactivity because Solid is not able to really efficiently update to UI because they are lacking. With React, when you do map, they will force you to put a key because they want to use some IDs to identify what element to change when the array changes. So with Solid, they want you to use for loop because for also provides a way for you to have an index, right? So that you can, um, have an idea of the components and also put it in the render tree in case you update.
exactly. So this allows us Solid to track each item specifically and when to clear that, when to update that, and all those things. You can see here that I don't have a key, and if I go ahead and add a key here, it errors out, right? If I do something like if I do something like index here, it squiggles out, and this tells me that proxy key does not exist, and that's because Solid is trying to handle that for you more efficiently. I think that's basically it. We'll have the carts item, which I may have explained before. So let's see what we want to build. Let's move over to this place. I'm going to spin up a local host for 3000, and we have this, right? So this is what we are basically going to be building. I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can all see this. I don't know if
Awesome.
this,
Is that a bugger?
yeah, I think it's a bugger.
Oh, I
Uh,
can see chips there. Like I love chips so much.
that's awesome. So
Yeah.
we have this homepage which has the router. So if you go to your index app.tss here, you have these routes here. So we have these routes here, and here we have these components. We have this one linking to the cart page, which is basically the cart, and we have this one linking to the item list page, which is the item list here you're seeing. So when you click on home, it's going to navigate you to this uh, page here, which is what we're doing here. We are using this A tag here that's Solid provides for us, so imported from Solid router, and we are navigating to the slash here, and we call it home. And in here, when we navigate to carts, we are having this, you know, this navigation here to carts, and this is just a basic quantity. So when you select an item, when you add an item to a cart, you want to track the quantity of items you have in the cart and stuff like that. So I'm currently hard coding this to be 5, but we'll update that when we write the code. So let's do some code. And yeah, the cart obviously. So currently it says our cart is empty, and when we update that, we'll get to have some things. Before we go ahead and start writing some code, we want to structure this in a kind of a more efficient manner. We want to have it in a the production setup manner. So I'll go ahead and use the contest Solid provides, right? We could manage this with local state, but that would be very much inefficient. And because we don't have all the time in the world, I can demo how you could manage this in local state and handle this in a better way. However, subsequently, we'll be making release of this tiny bit of records or pre-record videos you could find on our YouTube channel, and that would give you access to a variety of contents and things we can not always give out during the code jam. So here we are going to move into the contest, and we want
So we're
to
using
create.
React context. Sorry, my bad. I keep saying React context. Solid context. Solid has context, the same concept of context API as in React.
Yes, please.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we are going to use the contest, and we are going to create a cat contest, right? So we can have an idea of all the items in the cart, right? So I'm going to create something called cats contest, because actually, what am I doing? Cats contest, and I want to create this thing called cat contest, and it's going to be a TSS file because I want to render some JSS in it, right? Now, here I want to go ahead and create a contest, right? So I'm going to call a constant. Let me call this cat contest. I don't know why I keep doing this contest, and I want to create a contest. So I want to create a contest, and this is imported from Solidjs, as you can see here. And I'm going to create a contest here. And this create contest, well, I want to, since it's TypeScript, we have to type this, right? So what kind of values are going to be in this
Yeah.
contest? One, we want to have, you know, an array of items, and we want to have a setter to update that array, right? So you want to have an array of items, like all the arrays of items in your cart, and you want to have a setter, something like set items or update item, that when you could add an item to the array, or you could remove an item from the array as well. So I'm
Okay.
going to define a type here. Type, uh, let me call this cart contest value. And this card contest value is going to have an item, and this item is going to be a type of, it's going to be an array, right? A type of the item we'll have here. So if you look at the type definition we'll have here, we'll have an item here. So an item is going to be type of, have an ID, name, price, image, and all that stuff. So it's going to have an item type, and this will auto import for me, and we are going to say that is going to be an array. And here, the next one, we want to have a setter. So we want to have a set item, and that set item is going to be of a store function. So Solid provides you with this set store function, right? So uh, that that references the create store, because we want to create a store and want to store values in that store, right? So the set store function, just like in your React, where you create a contest and you have your use reducer and stuff like that. So Solid provides you with this create store, and this is going to be of a type set store function here. And I love IntelliSense, right, a lot. So
Me
this
too.
was yeah, I love IntelliSense a lot. So this creates this for us, and this is this create store function is going to take in the item array, right? It's going to be it's going to take in the items array, uh, this array here, and we have this. So now we can go ahead and use this in our types here. And if you've not written JavaScript before, you could just ignore all these types here and go ahead and write your regular vanilla JS. But I think TypeScript is very, very type safe. I can't imagine myself starting a cheat project without having TypeScript, because when you go to production environments, you would encounter type errors. Like your error logs, your if you're using Sentry, your Sentry will be hitting you with type errors every now and then. So use TypeScript and save yourself the stress,
Okay.
and you're going to catch errors that you miss anyways. So we want to
Yeah.
have this cat value, cat value, cat context value. I don't know why I did this, but this should be this.
Camel
Because
case.
yeah, so we have this now. We've created our cat contest. Next, we want to go ahead and create our provider, right? So our provider is going to be a function, and this function is going to return some children, right? So your provider is something you want to use to wrap around probably your app.js or index. Wrap around your app.js, right? Or app.ts, right? So it's going to be a function that
Optional
returns.
components.
You're going to have this. It's not really more like a HOC that is going to wrap around your app.ts and have, and then every other thing within that provider is going to be it's going to have values provided by that provider, and we are going to see how that happens. So I'm going to call a function cat provider, and this cat provider is going to, nope, let's say cat contest,
Context provider.
cat contest provider. And this contest provider is going to basically return, and it's going to return. Here we want to return the cat contest dot provider. So because this is a create contest, we have the method cat, the method provider inside of it. So we're going to call this cat contest, and it has a method provider, and that is going to accept something here, and every other thing we're going to pass the children here, and that children want to get from here, right? So we're going to call props here, and this props is going to be of a type. Uh, it's going to have a type of, let's say, cat contest provider props, right? And that cat contest provider props is going to be a children, right? And like what I mean is generally want to have something here called children, and these children here are mostly going to be JSS, right? So we could do something like this. We do children, and we are going to say this is a type of JSS. So there's JSS here from Solid, and once it's JSS, and it's going to be an element, right? JSS dot element. This is what I mean. However, this looks kind of it looks kind of too like, why don't we extract this into a type here? So let's extract it into a type and call it cards contest
Provider props.
provider props.
Yeah,
And
your C should be in capital letter, isn't it?
yep, it is. It should be. So cards contest provider props is going to have a children, and these children here, and this is just the TypeScript. There's no rocket science thing here. So this children is going to have this JSS, this same thing here. So we could just copy this. Well, let's just copy this and put it here. and our problems are solved. And here we could call this, we could assign these props here. We call these props. Whatever comes in here, we just want to say whatever comes in here is going to have is path context provider props, right? So path context provider props, which is this one here. Now we can call our props or children here
Okay.
because we are expecting that this is going to have its children. We can call our props or children. Now, if you look up here, this is still airing out because, well, this should have a value, right? And we've not passed in that value. So let's do that. So this is going to have a value, and the value is going to have, well, we want to send an items, right? The items in the carts, and we want to equally send the setter for that items, right? And let's go ahead and create that items, right? So here we use the store, the create store, which is provided by the Solidjs. So we could say const items, and we say set items, and this is going to be of a create store.
Great stuff.
This is a create store. And here we could say the first item, like the initial item, is going to be an array of empty. And
Okay.
here we want to equally type this, right? Because
Yep.
this will be an array of empty. So we want to type this. So this store, of course, is going to be a type of an items array, right? So we say this is an item array, and this fixes a TypeScript error. Now in here, we want to pass in, uh, you know, we want to pass in an object where we have an items and the set items, right? Set item. Are we correct? So this should be set items.
So the items is a function, so you execute it, right? So items equals, sorry, the create store, what does it return as the first index in the array?
The create store returns an items and equally
Oh,
returns the
items
set
array.
items.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. We have a TypeScript one in here. Items is not assignable to cart context value. Hmm. Why
Scroll
is
up and
that?
see what you use.
Why is that?
So is it complaining for the set item? Okay, it's complaining for the set items.
Yeah,
So
this.
scroll up, let's see what type is
Okay.
used.
Let's
Item, item.
cart context. I don't think we're doing anything wrong. This is a GSS, and here we have these items here, which is an array. We are saying set items here, and we
Move
are
on, let's see the particular type that it's missing. So
so
this is
let's
a class of array which is defined as interesting, blah 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 blah. Which will bring
hmm, I
to
don't think I don't think we're doing anything wrong.
okay. The types
No worries.
can
Let's send one first and see, and it still complains. So I
let's
think we
that
may be
one.
missing out something here in our provider
So when you
context.
put an array and just put an empty array, put items and just put an empty array, let's see.
Oh, you know what? Let's type this. So this is a GSS dot.
Okay.
Probably this could help elements. And let's see. No, this is actually the return type. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
already
it.
returned GSS here. So
Okay, so just put items and put an empty array. Let's see what the error says.
okay.
So
Okay.
small letter I.
Yep. Empty
Yeah.
array. Nope.
So just hover on it. It might be because the set type is missing. Okay.
Now, you know what? Let's write this, and we are going to pass this with an any just to save ourselves time. I think that will help us a lot.
Okay.
So yeah, let's move on and write this. So we might figure this out in a bit. So items, we have the sets items, and here we now we have the context here, this card context provider here, and we want to export Want to export the cat contest provider, I want to export this cat contest here. So both of which. So we do this export cat contest and the provider, cat contest provider. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we are exporting the cat contest and the cat contest provider. And let me see if I'm importing this from. Oh, that makes a lot of sense, right? I'm exporting this GSS here. So GSS should come from. This should come from Solidjs. So let's see if that helps us. So GSS comes from Solidjs. This contest comes from Solidjs. This comes from this, and we have this here. All right. So we will come back to why this is happening to our life in a bit. But now we
Yeah.
want to wrap this in our. If you come to our index of TSS here, we want to wrap this provider here. So we'll go ahead and do this. We have to call the provider. So that's the cards contest provider, and we wrap it around this app here. So everything that is provided within the app is going to have access to that. To that. So call this, save, move this up a bit, and I don't have prettier enabled for some reasons, so I would suffer it. So we have this wrapped around, and I think that's pretty much it for here. So let's look at this in a bit. So we have a card contest provider, which is just definitely this, and we are not doing anything wrong. Hmm. This is a card contest value, which is extending from this. Yeah. So if this is a card contest provider here, we have this item here. Item. Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we have this set to items, and we have this set to uh, items, and we are using the plurals here. So that was why
Oh,
we were having this error. Makes a lot of sense, right? Pretty much
seriously.
something we
We
want
had.
to.
I don't understand. Like I missed that. Like you had
Yeah.
what set items.
So we kind of created this type overhand, right? And we are kind of using the plural values for here and here instead
Oh,
of a singular, which
wow.
we use single for.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was
So it makes
surprised. Like what's missing? Like
yeah. So uh, now we want to, so what do we want to do? I think one of the things we want to do is the next handler we want to do handle. Now you can see that. Oh, this makes no sense. Let me see. Oh, I think probably this. Yeah, makes no sense initially. So we want to be able to add values here and see values here. But before that, let's go ahead and update this value here and get the value from our items actually, right? So in our app.js or TSS here, we have quantity. Now we want to get this quantity from our provider, our store currently, this store we've declared, right? And the way we do that is let's consume from this store we've created. So the way you
so
consume
now
from
we're
this
using the
store,
context data, right? We're using the
yes,
context.
yeah, we have to use context, right? So we have this thing called use context from Solidjs, the same way you have in React, and
Okay.
you could call use context and have access to all items and stuff like that. The
Okay.
way I love to do it is do it here, so we could actually call that as a hook, kinda. So I'm going
Okay.
to call an export const use cat store because I suck
Okay.
with names, right? And this is going to
So this is
fire up.
good.
Yeah, this is going to fire up the function, and we have the
Use context.
use contest. Yeah, the use contest, and the use contest is going to accept the cat contest, right? But this is
Yeah.
the context I want to use. And that way, I have this use contest store or this use card contest, and that should give me access to this item
Why don't
on
you add
this.
it to the export?
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we could do const here, and we could do this as well. Oh,
Yeah.
I did the worst thing ever. I did Control C and I did Control C, and that hurts. That hurts my feelings. And we'll have this. So in here, we could call that use that store we just created or that hook. So we could
Yeah.
call const store, right, equals, we could use is that use
Use
cat
content
content,
cat store.
use cat store, yeah, this one here, and we'll have it here. And if I go ahead and log this, you're going to see that we'll have those values. So I'm going to console.log this value, and I'm going to say store.
Dot
And
items.
here we'll go here. You're going to see we should have those two values. So in our console.log here, we'll have an object and we'll have the items, which is an array, a proxy array, as Kelechi explained, right? And we'll have this set items here, which is a store function here. All right. So we can go ahead and I think we should be able to destructure items from here if TypeScript will allow us. So let's try
Yeah,
that.
we can get items and set items. You
Yeah,
called it
I
item
think.
list.
Sorry.
You called it item list.
No, I didn't. We called it items. I'm very sure about that.
Okay. Okay. So
Items.
I
So I think
yeah.
TypeScript is going to give a warning here. Item is displayed, but its value is never. Oh, awesome, makes sense.
Yeah,
So
you've not used it.
let's try this items, and we still have another warning. So
No,
property
you've not
item.
saved it.
Yeah, I think it's actually a warning. So in here, what we're doing here is in this context when we create this context, right? We are
Yeah.
having this to be this value here is having an MC, and that
Okay.
that by default makes it that this value is nullable, is capable of being undefined, right? And here
Okay.
we are trying to destructure items. So TypeScript is saying, wait, hold on a minute. You're trying to access item, you're trying to destructure item as if it always be there, but there's a chance that items would not always be there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And right now, I don't want to go through that stress of trying to type this. So I'm going to do
Why not
this.
assign default values to it? So
Yeah,
set it to
I'm going to call store, then access it from there. So I'm going to access it with the I could do something like store dot items, and that should allow me to access that. So as much as
okay.
it exists, go ahead and grab that for me. So if
But
I
what if
do,
you're passing a default value to the create context API and then
okay,
that way it's not default, it's not empty by default.
so let's try that. It I think that will still not mostly work. So let's try that. So I'm going to pass in
No,
this
like an
default
object. You're passing in an
items.
array.
Items is an array. Sorry. Okay, these are an object. Yeah, like an
Yeah.
empty object.
Yeah. And then put
And we
items as an array.
and we
Oh, then
should
we
define.
have to define the set items. Okay, let's.
Yeah. So we have to go through that bureaucracy
But I
of
think there's a
writing.
way to it. Like you can have defaults for those things.
Yeah, there's actually a way you could have a default for this value. So here we have this is actually a create a context here. So what you could do here is you could have items here. Items. You could say items is empty array, and you have to call on set items to be set items
To be null, something or
to be okay. We want to set it to null. Is that possible? I don't think it's nullable. So
yeah.
this
So what can you set it? So something like that has that type set item. What can you set it to?
let's see. I think we can call a function. Set item should be a function that accepts this. Uh, are you kidding me? So we could do this, and that function
Like a
uh,
void.
void. I
Wait.
doubt this is
Yeah.
going to. Hmm. And this is a param uh, mini. You know what? I don't want to go ahead and type this right now because it's too much
Yeah.
for for this for this. So we are just asset. We'll just go ahead and assess it with the safe JavaScript
Okay.
thing. So we can go ahead and do this. So having this, that gives us the ability to kind of create a quantity. So we want to calculate the quantity. Now, the way we want to calculate the quantity is we are going to have a list of items, right? So let's explain it from here. Now, if I add 200, this is $200, right? If I
Yeah.
add an item, it should say $200. If I add this again, if I click add again, since this already exists, it should go ahead and increment the quantity. So we'll always be checking the quantity, right? If this already exists, well, the quantity should be two, right?
Yeah.
If it already exists, the quantity should be incremented to three and stuff like that. And if I add this, then this doesn't exist already. So it's going to go ahead and add it to the item list and stuff like that. So first off, we want to go ahead and say quantity, let's call a constant called a function called quantity that we could return here so that this would automatically subscribe to our quantity list here. So quantity, so quantity equals uh, is going to be a function, right? So let's call this an arrow function and want to return, we want to return, now we want to go ahead and return store, now store dot items. Now the store dot items is going to be an array. We want to reduce that so we can get the, oh really, we want to reduce that so we can get the accumulator, right, and the current value. And when we have the accumulator and current value, so the accumulator is whatever value we've accumulated all so far. The current value is going to be like the
The
current
current
object.
material. Yeah, the
Yeah, the
current.
current accumulated objects, right?
Yeah.
So we want to say the accumulator, we want to add that to the current objects. Now that object has a quantity in it, and that's what we care about. So the current objects dot quantity, and because this is nullable, it was complained that this is nullable, so we are going to use this safe access dot quantity, and this we could say zero, and this is
Cool.
just vanilla JS, right? Regular JavaScript. So we have an error here. It says this is possibly undefined. Because we don't have the energy for TypeScripts, I'm going to say, well, if this is undefined, go ahead and make it zero for me, right? So we have that value, and we could use our quantity in here. So call quantity in here, and that should work for us. So let's see if that works. Yeah, we have zero. And when I click this, nothing happens because we have not added a handler for what should happen when I click this, right? So let's go ahead and go to our items list. And in our items list, we want to go ahead and write this. We want to
Inside
go
our
ahead and
card.
write what happens. Yeah. Sorry.
Inside the card. The card.
Yeah.
I think the button is inside the card, right?
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's inside the card. So let's go to the card components. I think this is a card component. Now we have no. Oh, I think it's in the card components, not
Yeah,
cards.
the card.
Awesome. Pardon me, sir. So we want to have this. We want to have this button here, and this button should say something like add item, right? It should say something like add item, right?
All
And
right.
the
Yeah.
way we want to, yeah. So the way we want to handle this is Well, we have this. Let's define this function here. So function item. Now, okay. Now this function is going to first off, we want to check before we add an item. Let's say I click this, right? We have to. If I click this field here, well, it adds it to the array. If I click it again, should I add this same item again to the array? Well, I don't want to, right? I want to just increase the quantity, right? Not add this item again. But if I click this, I have to add it to the array. So the way we want to handle it is if this item already exists in the array, don't add it. Just increase the
Okay.
quantity. Otherwise, go ahead and add it. So how we do that is let's call a local scopes of variable called already exists. So constant already exists. Already exists is going to be now we want to grab a store, and this store is going to come from on store is going to come from our compose store, which is use
Use
cat.
install.
Yep. So we want to say store dot items. Now we want to go ahead and find, right? For each of these items, we want to find, and what we want to find by ID, right? Because each of these item in the store, if you look up here, this item here, there's an ID here, which is a unique identifier. So I want to go ahead and find. So when we say find, it's going to give us you know, we can,
Item.
yeah, this array of items. So we are iterating over it, and when we go ahead and iterate each one of them, we could have a product item, right? So we could say this is product item, or let's just shorten it with product or P. Now, each product item, we want to go ahead and see if this product item here, P dot ID, the ID of the product item, which is in this store, the one already in the store. So if there is a store, we have several items already in our carts. We want to check the store items and see that there's iterate over all of them and see that the ID, none of the IDs match whatever we are trying to add. So none of this is equal to item.id. And which is this item here? So if I what I mean here is in here, this is an item, right? If I click add, it should go ahead and check the store, which already exists somewhere, that none of the IDs here match this one here. So
Okay.
if that matches, then it's going to return this as true. Otherwise, it's going to return as false. So if this exists, if already exists, if this already exists, we want to go ahead and update the quantity. So we don't want to go ahead, we don't want to add anything. We don't want to add another item. We want to go ahead and update the quantity. So the way we do this is
Yeah.
we say
So with,
store.
yeah, with already exist. If you do it like that, then an item on an item with an index of zero, it's going to because with find okay, find returns the item, and when the item is not there, it returns -1, right?
So let's see that. So so we're having this to find. I think this is going to return a boolean. So console.log.
Find will return. I think it to return the item.
Yeah, it's going to return the item, and we are saying here. So
Yeah.
if it returns the item, this is going to be truthy.
Okay. Okay. Let's continue. I think
Otherwise, it's going to be
even though it
false.
returns -1 for the item not there, then
It's
it's
going to be
just going
faulty.
to yeah false. Okay.
Okay, so we have this store here. We have the store dot. Now we want to go ahead and set this item. So we want to set the item, and when we are setting the item, we want to only update an value. So the value we want to update in the store would be the quantity, right? So we want to go ahead
Okay.
and say store dot set item, and set item is actually a function. Now we have to do the same thing here. So we copy here. So if p dot this equals this, so store dot if this already exists, we want to say where p dot id equals this, right? Go ahead and update this value of quantity for me, right? Because this has a quantity and it knows because we've been typing this all the while. And in this value of in this quantity, we want to say the current quantity. So we want to say the current quantity, right? I'm going to call it CTY, which is
Okay.
going to be a function. So this is generally a function here, which we are firing. I want to say this current quantity is going to be the current quantity plus 1. Now, because of TypeScript, right, this is still going to ask us, well, this could be undefined. And we want to say, well, if this current quantity exists, just to pass the bug or the TypeScript bug, if the current quantity exists, we want to go ahead and say, well, update that current quantity. Otherwise, we want to make it 1 because it means that the item is just 1, right, in the cart. And
Okay.
this should handle the already exists for us. So if we have an item that already exists in the cart, this should go ahead and update the quantity. Else, so if not already exists,
So we can just, do we need to add it if not already exists? Why don't you just return and then
yeah.
it
So
means
we could just go ahead and return. But however, we are not returning here, right? So
okay.
this is not returning. So we have to add it in an else block or something. So I'll go
So what
ahead
if
and
we
just
add a return? What if we add a return after line 18? We add a return there so that
I
we already
yeah,
updated the quantity.
okay. So we
And
can just
we
do
don't need the if again.
so just return here. Then we have to uh, do otherwise. So if this doesn't happen, so we want to go ahead and say store dot set items. So here we want to actually update the items. And well, this item is going to be an array, right? Let's spread whatever already exists in there. So that would be the store dot items. So whatever is in the array already, go ahead
Yeah.
and keep it, but add this new item that is coming through. So add this new item here. We could put this in another spread, or we could just add it here as an item here. I think whichever works, right? And let's try this out. So
So are you
yeah,
passing the item through the function, the add item function? Where is the item coming from? Oh, the item that was passed to the cart. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. This is coming from the store.
Okay, okay. So the item, the second item, item in the array is coming from the from as a props to the card component, right?
Yeah, this is coming as a cross from this card component here.
Okay, okay, cool.
Correct. So in here we could do add item. You have one. If I add item again, this increase to 2. And if I add this item, this would increase to 3, and so on and so forth. Because we are calculating the quantity of items, and this is actually referencing the quantity, as we can see from the app here. So we are looking after the item quantity here, and that's how we are getting our total in the store, right?
Okay, okay.
So what else do we have to handle? That's So we have to handle this cart item here. So when we have items in the cart, it should not say empty, right? So we want to handle that. We come to this cart page here or cart page. I don't know why I always mistaking card or I pronounce them wrong. Yeah. So I think that's bad design on my end. I named card and have card. So yeah, we'll do better next time. So here is a card page here, and we'll have this series of info. So first off, we want to grab the items in the store, right? So the items in the store, and we could grab that by saying store here. So on store equals use card here,
This
cards
class, so
store, and we'll have this item here. So in here, we could use it to iterate over and say when we don't have an item, store dot items here,
why
and
don't
then
we
we
use
want
for that comes with sorry, that comes with solid chairs for that part, and then we use show for the second part. When if we don't have something, we use the next thing, right? That's
Yeah, we
condition there.
could.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we
let's
could.
use show
Now,
on four.
all right, but that would have to mean I have to add some styles again to rewrite the styles, and I
Let
won't
me.
have to.
We need to rely the styles for that.
Yep, I think so. So if we do four, this okay. Let's see how that goes. So four here we have this, we have each here,
Yeah,
right? And this each has
data.
the the not data. So we have the store,
Okay, and the index.
yeah, but items.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we could grab this entire thing in here, cut it out, and in here we'll see paste it here, and
Is that syntax correct for each?
oh, you know what? Let's. I think we have a four in this place here. Nope. Head over to documentation.
For each is like you're not passing the properties. So you pass the property with the template equal to. So you're not adding equal to. So equal to and
Okay,
then curly braces,
that's on my
curly
end.
braces, and then
So
yeah.
having
So
this,
now
this
you're
can be
passing a
from.
you get a function. So is it sorry?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
The curly braces, then the next thing you get is a function inside it. So inside the each inside the when you close the curly braces, so you pass in a
That's this
function.
should be a function. But
No,
this can't be a function
no,
actually.
it's not a function. That one is not a function. So you just remove that one. So go inside the after the closing angle brackets.
Okay.
Yeah, after it. So go down to
Okay, we should
line
have a
38.
we should have a function here.
Yeah, we should have a function there that returns the JSX.
Hmm. So that means we have to put this in.
So copy it and just have an arrow function there or something.
Okay.
So
So
copy it, open your curly braces, then arrow function. Then the first item is the item itself, which is a part for this case, and then the index.
okay, add an index, and I think we are using the item here. So this is the item has an space of
Uh,
any.
yeah. So
So
hold on. Let's see for. So why is for complaining? Can you just hover on it?
I think we need to install this. We have to import this, right?
Yeah, we need to import stuff from sorry for from solid.
Solid,
Then
and this could be any.
you don't need to type it. It's supposed to infer the type from the each argument passed. So then remove the type there, remove the second type. Yeah. So why is the complaint? Cannot find. Check where you got. Okay. Yes. So just remove the rest of the code and
Yep.
then save. So why is this still complaining? Void is not sending to the type item element.
Item.
So did you return?
It's
You
not
already
return.
returned by default. So let's see. You don't need the curly braces after the function block because you don't have a bracket inside. After the function block on line 39.
Okay, yeah, I'm not returning. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So yeah.
Nothing that works for
Hold on.
us.
Scroll down. Scroll down. What that curly brace is? Which one is it? Okay, it's the initial one. All
Yeah,
right.
this one is initial, the one that wraps it where we have JavaScript.
Okay.
Not
So
like
just format the code. I think you can right click and then use maybe ESLint format or something.
I think it's disabled for this very Precia is
Project.
disabled
Yeah.
for
So right click. Let's use maybe another formatter. So and right click and do format document. Format
where is it?
document with format document.
It's it.
It's usually the format
Yep.
document.
Okay,
Yeah,
for my
format.
document with
Yeah.
I
So
think
just use the second one, prettier ESLint, and then save. It doesn't work for you.
it doesn't work for me. I think this is a it works for me on a React project, but for some weird reasons Is
And
that
if you
working?
click the pretty idea, it doesn't like on.
Nope, it doesn't.
Okay, so let's continue.
All right, so let's see how that works. And all right, so you can see we already have two items, right? And those two items are the two items we added. And we have this functionality here. We have this where you could add, remove, and all these are not working because we've not done anything yet on it. So let me
Okay.
go ahead and add another item. So this says we have six of this item onion. So let me add another mango. So if I go to the here and add another mango, so add to carts, and you can see it's two now. So the quantity is just updating to two, and it updates like in real time. So, and this, funny enough, right? I think we have a console log somewhere here, and you can see that console log is just once. So, no matter how much I update this, it doesn't render. I'm not like doing any uh, usual, conscious, optimization here. It's just runs once. And the way Solidjs handles this is your component. It's kind of a your component runs once, and everything is just discarded, removed. So you don't like it doesn't run again, right? And you could read more about that in the solid documentation, but let's continue. So let's write a handler to increase this quantity here, decrease
Okay.
it, and be able to delete, right? Sorry, I don't know if I'm having some background noise on my end here.
Yeah, can continue.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah, so we can improve on this maybe later, like to like use the show and this thing. But right now, let's like write the handlers to increment count and decrement count.
Yeah, we could use the show to show and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
for the now,
Because
let's
of time, let's
yep.
just write the handlers.
So the increase, the which should we write for? So let's calculate the item. So here we are returning the item count to be 5. So let's calculate the item count. So the way we do that is we call the store item, and in the store item we want to go ahead and do almost the same thing we are doing. So here we have this code already here, and here we are doing the total value, right, for this quantity. So we could just grab this and save ourselves a humongous amount of time. So go back to this place. Nope.
The one showing red. Yeah.
Yeah, and paste it here. And I think that will solve our problem. So let's see. We save that. That helps us here. So we have 8 items, and yeah, that's actually 8 items. So we have six here, two here, which is 8 items. And to calculate the total amount, right? So we have to iterate over them and equally do the same thing. So in here, instead of and to calculate the total amount, we have to equally consider the quantity of items, right, for each item. So the way we do that is we'll equally do reduce. So store dot reduce dot items dot reduce, and we want to have a accumulator, and we want to have a current value. But here, here we have accumulator, we have current value,
Current
and
value.
just to be more explicit, let's call this total, so which is the total item, and this is going to be the actual item we are getting when we iterate, right?
Okay.
Item, and here it's going to give us this function where we see our total. We want to add that to the item dot price,
Okay.
because there is a
Okay.
price
Price
here. Yeah,
multiplied by the quantity.
yep. And when we're adding it to the price, we want to equally go ahead and want to consider the quantity. So we want to equally add the quantity of items, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do plus uh, item dot quantity,
Times item dot quantity.
okay, times item dot quantity, sorry, quantity, and we'll have this to be forwarded to
Default
0.
to zero.
And we'll do, because, well, this could be nullable and we are using TypeScript, so just say, well, if this doesn't exist, just go ahead and make this to be 0 for us. And here we go.
So the error is
So
down.
yeah,
Press type.
so the error is down because we added this or here to
Okay.
be yeah. So this TypeScript is complaining that, well, you can't do an addition on something that is capable of being undefined, right? And I'm saying, well, if it's undefined, make it assign it to zero, add it to zero,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is going to keep the original item anyways. And this is very bad code, but just to speed up the entire process, well, this
Okay.
is what we have. And you can see here that we have six items here, and we have two items here. So let's do the maths here. So I'm going to call a calculator. So we have six item for 200. So I'm going to say 200
Add 200.
multiplied by 6 gives me 1,200.
So everything is
And
going to
yeah, we have this. This will give us 40, right?
to
$40. So add that to 40.
40.
We should have $1,240, which is what we have here, anyways. So that solves our problem of, you know, calculating the total. So what we have to want to do is be able to increase the count, decrease the count, and delete the item from the store, right?
Okay.
So
So
let's
can we
do just
just
that.
once
Yeah.
like just write all the code for that one? So we just schedule test it once.
Okay.
Those are
Do we have
fine.
a? Okay, sure, please.
Yeah.
So I think we have about 4 minutes to kick out. So I'm going
Yeah.
to write a handler for this. So increase item. The way we want to handle this is go ahead and say store. Want to still grab the store.
No, you're writing it in caps.
Yep. So store dot uh, dot items, right?
Yeah.
So we want to increase the item. So we are setting a value here. So store dot
Okay.
so dot set values here, and we want to grab here. We'll have the previous value, whatever the previous value is, and this will give us the previous value. And there we want to go ahead and iterate over it and add that value to it. So we could say something like this. So first off, we want to we want to have an array like this, and this is the previous value which you're getting. So you could do something like spread this previous value, right, and add whatever value is coming in. So that could be your no. You want to spread this previous value, and you want to
Yeah.
add a quantity to it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you want to increase the quantity. So we are basically increasing the quantity. So you want to increase the quantity of this item,
Okay.
and you want to set the quantity to whatever whatever the previous value dot quantity is. So this quantity will be sorry.
I
This
think
will
we
be
need to first of all open a function break function, right? Since set item takes a function, and then we need to find the index of that item that has that ID, and then change
yeah
the quantity.
yeah. So let's do that with find, or let's do that with map, right? So prev dot map. Sorry, what am I what am I saying? Okay, this is store item, right?
We,
And we are
yeah,
saying the previous whatever is here in the previous value,
yeah, yeah,
uh, and we are saying this dot map.
yeah.
So we want to map through and do map is going to give us
The item, an item,
an item, each item. So we want to call that a product.
product.
Each product is going to have a p.id. So we want to check where the p.id.
So we need to open a function curly braces because we cannot do that in one line, right? So if the p.id is equal to the item.id, we increase the count, else we just return the item.
p.id is equals
So
the
item.id.
item.id.
Yeah. So put that in an if condition.
Okay, let's put it in an if just for
Yeah.
clarity.
Then we now return it is spread operator and increase the quantity.
So we want to on the spread operator. So we want to spread the previous item, which is a pre value, and we want to equally increase the quantity.
Yeah.
Quantity is going to be whatever the previous value is dot quantity, right?
Yeah. Whatever P is, P dot quantity, P.
Okay. So else,
P.
oh, this p here, sorry,
Yeah.
p dot quantity else. But this doesn't seem right.
We don't need
So
an
what?
else. We don't need an else. You can just put return the P at the end.
Okay, we were returning the previous value.
Yeah.
However, so
So
let's
there's a Google line. So let's see what's causing it. I think
going
it
to
just has to do with how you close the brackets and how you return the object. Maybe.
so here we have this. I don't think so. So if p dot id, so this is p dot id is equals this item. So this is the item that comes through. So item dot id. If that
Yeah.
is so, we want to go ahead and return this.
You can just
So
create a new object and then return that object. So that it'll be easy for us to know which curly braces is what. So just equal to a new item object and then return that object or new item amount. Yeah. And then we'll return that new item. Return new item.
okay.
Okay, so why is it complaining? The type. So what's the type? Hover on the type for the P. Let's see what the type is. Hover on P. Let's see what the type is.
So the p should be. Is it saying the p is non-label? Let's see. Type. Okay. Priv item could be. Okay. This
So,
quantity is on. It's possible to be undefined. So here we
okay.
want to. So if you have this, or so
No, you use the curly brace.
yeah, okay, yeah. Uh, so
So you
that
want
does
to
not.
use the draws now. You want to do an or if it's undefined, right?
Yeah, like if this is like
So okay. So
nope.
you want to use the question mark after P, right?
I think using a ternary would allow me kind of more visual this.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to type this out a bit in a bit. Let me see how. So this is where we are at. This will give us a p, which is a
You're not
prefab value.
closing the last part. You're not closing set items properly.
Okay,
Yeah. So from the end, yeah. Yeah, okay.
okay,
So now it's now closed.
okay. This will give me this value, and I would say something like p dot id. Want to
Yeah.
find where p dot id is equals item dot id, right? And if this exists, want to go ahead and say if this exists, go ahead and call p dot uh, quantity, right? Go ahead and call p dot quantity, and we want to equally verify that. Want to verify that well, this p dot quantity that before we call increment, right? We can't increase on a zero item, right? So if we
Okay.
have zero, yeah, we can't increase on zero item. So we want to verify that this is greater than one. So if that exists, we want to go ahead and return an object because in the end, this is going to accept an object, right? The set item is going to accept an object, which is the items object, which is this one here. So we want to return an object, and that
An
object is going to
object
have
for an array. Okay,
an
it's going
object,
to form an array. Okay,
yeah,
because of the mark.
yeah, an object of the previous item, which is going to be yeah, that's the P, right? If
Okay.
I'm not wrong.
Okay, the current item is the P, yeah.
Yeah, so the an object of the P, and it's going to, we want to increment, we want to modify the quantity there. I want to see the quantity.
Okay.
Am I spelling quantity right?
Yeah, you're
I
spelling it right.
want, yeah, so the quantity is going to be, well, if there's a previous item, whatever the previous item is, so the P dot previous item dot quantity,
Okay.
or we make this zero, right?
Okay.
Right? And here we have this. So what we want to do here is whatever this is, whatever this entire composition is, we want to add one to it, right?
Okay.
So we want to do something like plus one. Why is this error now? Okay, quantity is
So you use
possibly
and.
uh,
Were you supposed to use and there? Okay, and quantity. Okay. Okay, cool.
so having one error. So we have a ternary here if it, and if this doesn't work, we want to say return the pre, that's the product with the item in the product here.
Okay.
And yeah, I think this is it. So I'm going to cut this into, make this a bit chunkier, and we have this portion of code. So what we're basically saying here is a store dot set item. Well, there's a previous value which is going to come from the store, which is the actual value in the store. We want to go ahead and iterate over it and find that value we want to update. Wherever that item.id matches the item ID, if that matches, then we want to go ahead and say, well, the item now, the quantity of that item, if it's greater than one, we want to go ahead and say that item, spread that item, but update the quantity for me. So we are setting the quantity to be whatever the quantity is. Well, that item has a quantity which could be
Okay.
five. It could have five originally. I want to
Yeah.
say that five plus a one. And
Okay.
in case of decrements, we'll have to do the same thing, right?
Okay.
So we want to do the same thing, but here we want to do a minus,
Subtract.
right?
Okay, and delete.
And delete, here we want to do, so the way we do delete is store, we want to find and
But
remove, right?
filter.
Yeah,
But
dot
filter.
item or
Set
filter.
items. I thought you can
Yeah.
use set items and then return a new filtered array.
Oh yeah,
Stored or
yeah.
set.
So we want
You
to
get the previous.
so we want to do a filter here, the previous value, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. So we have a previous value. We want to do
Items. Brief dot filter.
a
Brief. Brief.
filter, a filter. I want to filter where the item,
Yeah.
the item, let's call this. Uh,
P.
I'm trying not to use this this item here, so we could call this T. So whatever that T, T dot ID,
Yeah.
T dot ID
It's not equal to.
dot,
It's not equal to. Oh,
yeah,
it's not
is not
equal.
equal to
Item dot id.
item dot ID. So we want to return every other thing but this one, and there we'll go ahead and set this, right? So
Yeah.
because we are not using a kind of a spread operator, this is going to replace the entire store, right, with the new value. So let's test
Yeah.
this out and see if this works for us. So we're going to add this. So it increases the item to 7 here. This increases as well. So you can keep an eye here, out here. So let's try. And this increases as well. So I want to remove this. Start. So we have one here. And that was that rule set. So you can remove an item to 0, right? And we don't want
Okay.
to be able to, add an item to 0. So I could add, hmm, I think our add is having an issue. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, we have made a mistake. So we kind of, here's what we're doing, right? I'm going to add to carts. Let me just add a couple of items and go to the cart. So we can here, we can increase this to, I can increase, I think increase is not working correctly. So let's go and look at that. So have increment counts. Are we calling that correctly? Increment counts. Mhm. But here we are not, we are doing this. Hmm. So let me
So
log this.
okay.
Yeah, you wanted to say something, Kelechi?
Yeah, but just log it. Let's look at what the item coming in there to
Okay.
the add option.
So I think it's a product item. We have this. We have this. Yep. This is very weird.
So item is coming in.
Yeah. So it's coming in. We have the ID which is two, and area we have the quantity which is currently two, and it's increased to three. That's weird. Quantity is now three. Oh, it's working. I added a log and it's now works. That's weird. Hmm. I think what happens is we are kind of probably we need to do this way.
Okay.
Yep. I think uh, no, no. I think I'm wrong. So there's a bug in our code. I think here we have to take a pause here. So sometimes it kind of updates and sometimes it doesn't. And we are kind of clearing the cart, but it's not updating that the cart has is now kind of empty, and that's
Okay.
something we could improve on. And I think we should give that as a throw along task. So this is something you could actually do. You could try improving on these tags and play around it and see how you could improve the bug.
Yeah,
Right?
our time is fast spent. I wish we could just go into this bug and fix it,
Yeah.
but you know, it's for me. I think it's a very simple one. Right. So
Yep.
where we're adding the items, like where we're mapping through and trying to create the new quantity. All right. And yeah. Quantity.
I
That's,
bet you're still thinking about it.
yeah. I'm just that one person that I cannot just leave stuff. I just want to fix it
Yeah,
back.
like I know, right? So
So
I am as well, but I think we'll have to consider that sometimes just you take a hit. So we are going to take a hit on this one and let it slide. But
okay,
yeah,
but
it's
I think we're already having a typo, a TypeScript error on this file. So you mind scrolling down, and I was looking at the TypeScript error.
yep. Okay,
So that's an amount.
okay. I
So what's
think
going on with amounts?
so. We have calculate amounts,
Yeah.
and that's it's called the return items. We are returning.
So why is amount string close to it inside the temp? So you have to remove it and put it, and it doesn't have to be there, does it? Or does it
Yeah,
have to be with one
this is a
currency?
this is a format currency thingy, right? So what I'm saying is, if format currency is, oh, this should actually be a string
String.
or undefined.
Okay.
Did I type this to? I can't remember typing this to string or undefined. Oh, so what happens here is I'm actually bringing this. So this is returning a string. Is that so?
No, you
Quantity
can
cannot.
just easily convert to a string with the template literal.
Yeah. So
So that means you convert both of them because what is amount doing there? Amount colon. Does it take an object?
yeah, it takes an object,
Okay,
an
amount, which
amount,
is a
and
number.
now
It's a number.
yeah,
So why
type
is it that
not sending to number. So let's
the
see.
amount is a number? So why is it showing the
Oh,
script?
oh,
Can you hold on
this
the
is
script?
copy because this is possibly not undefined, and this is
Okay, can
so
you
what
hold
I'm
it zero?
yeah, I could do this here. I could say I could make this default of 0, right? And that should type it automatically. So all defined here. That should fit.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So
Okay, cool. So
that is it, guys. For this one, feel free to take up on the probably take up on the project or take up on a bigger project, and that's how we generally use Nest.js. And what you can see here is, apart from those values we are subscribed to, right? If I add a console log here, if I go ahead and add a console log to my app here, and you can see I'm not running any use memo or anything here, but if I add a console.log here in here that has houses everything and probably call this called, right? And save it. Now I could add as much as I want, and this would increment, right? Because that value is subscribed to, like we are subscribing to that value, and that value is being updated in the DOM. So Solid.js goes straight to the DOM, picks that very value and updates it, and every other thing doesn't re-render. And that's very beautiful because I can do whatever I want here. I could not. I don't need to start thinking of optimization clashes, and how do I break performance and stuff like that. This would never rerun again. Like that code here has run its lifetime, and it will never rerun again except I respin this project or refresh or anything. So this will only run once and once in its lifetime, and this can update as much as possible. So I think that's one of the beauties of Solid.js, and yeah, that's very awesome. So it was such an awesome build.
yeah, thank you so much, Melody, for taking us through Solidjs. And this was like this is good. I feel like there's still though with maybe by the next jam we'll be deploying. We'll add some touches to this application, fix the issues, and also use Solid's provided APIs necessary, especially for places where you're trying to do map and reduce. Right, we'll also change that because map and reduce is compute intensive. Imagine this is Amazon and you're having so many items that you're mapping through, right? And yeah, so that will help us, and also using use memo to prevent it from functions from getting recomputed. Right, so this is good, and so thank you so much, and we're looking to have you all in the next, or to have an exciting next jam.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I'm so much looking forward to it next jam, and hopefully we'll have more, uh, something more interesting uh, in our next jam. Definitely,
Yeah,
we'll have something more interesting in our next jam. So
yeah.
yeah, all right, take care, guys.
All right.
Bye.